Cities that have been putting up with homelessness for years and years and years, and now their residents are they're really sick of it. Desperate, progressive San Jose is now making homeless people eligible for arrest if they refuse 3 offers of shelter. Now, they originally went with a system where, 3 times arrested. But then they put in this provision where they're like, now they're eligible for arrest. So even when they get right up to the front lines of actually doing something that may or may not work, they back off and go, oh, that's not very compassionate. Let's just make them eligible for arrest. Let's get into it. Here we go.
Initially, the mayor's plan called for arresting unhoused people if they refuse shelter 3 times in an 18-month period. But in this initiative approved by the city council this afternoon, that language has been removed. The city council voted 9-2 in favor of an amended version of Mayor Matt Mahan's responsibility to shelter initiative. The measure amends the city's
responsibility to shelter. You've got a responsibility to not be living in a tent, doing drugs, defecating on the sidewalk. That's your responsibility.
Code of conduct for encampment residents to include more specific rules. It also allows for the city to do more outreach and creates a neighborhood quality of life unit to monitor encampments. Refusing shelter is now added as a violation of the code of conduct, but the approved measure does not include an earlier stipulation allowing an unhoused person to be arrested for refusing shelter 3 times in 18 months. In a statement, Mahan said, "We took an important step forward today with the responsibility to shelter vote. The enhanced code of conduct gives us new tools to require treatment for those who need it the most, and this treatment will save lives, save taxpayer money, and help turn the corner in the era of encampments." Homeless advocate Sean Cartwright says even with all the changes, the proposal is a bad move.
A lot of it is that they see that the responsibility is all on unhoused people, where the responsibility is really on them to understand the needs of unhoused people, and they don't.
Advocates for the unsheltered also argue the initiative will...
I would say that is incorrect. That is an incorrect statement by an activist who comes from such a warped perspective. They're dealing with these crazy lunatics 24/7, and they think, well, somebody should be helping them. Somebody should be helping them. Well, to a certain extent, but how about the ones that are going out and continually using drugs? They're going down all those pathways. You know, life has choices. You make bad choices, you go this direction. Make good choices, you go this direction.
Create more fear among the unhoused when it comes to cooperating with officials. We're told under the new plan, police will enforce common violations such as trespassing and parking issues, but it will be outreach workers who will determine on a case-by-case basis whether an unhoused person should be forced to go to treatment. The new initiative will go into effect in July. In San Jose, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
So cops can arrest people. Cops are going to be able to arrest people for trespassing, but not for refusing shelter 3 times. They backed off on that. They're getting right up to the edge of the cliff and going, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Homeless people who reject 3 offers of shelter will be eligible for arrest on trespassing charges. Trespassing. Okay. After the San Jose Council voted Tuesday for a policy change, they hope will encourage unhoused people to trade in their tents on sidewalks for beds indoors. There is this notion by all of these folks that have allowed homelessness to go unfettered, just let her rip. What could be better? Homelessness for all. But there's this big push right now from the governor on down, podcaster Newsom. He's got a state that isn't looking real good for upcoming, Olympics. So they're trying to do whatever they can. What can we do to make the optics on the homelessness situation look better? Well, even if you did, say you arrested these folks for being homeless, you going to put them in jail? What judge is going to, convict them? Oh, you're homeless? 5 years for you. You know what I mean? That's not the correct solution. The correct solution is, like they're trying to go to, which is they're saying an outreach person will be able to determine whether they need treatment. Are they really going to force somebody into treatment? These folks, that's not what they do. That's not what these folks are all about. They're coddling. They're about coddling these people and coddling their lifestyle. We heard it from the outreach person, the one with the pride nonsense or whatever was on her shirt. The vote was 9-2 in favor of adding a responsibility to shelter provision. We need you, unsheltered people doing drugs, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We need you to understand that you have a responsibility to shelter. Yeah. You've got a responsibility to shelter. Instead of taking charge and saying, hey, we've offered you shelter twice. It's your third option. If not, here's what we're going to do. And something more drastic than the threat of arrest, right? But what is there? What is there? What are you going to do? Are you going to mandatory treatment? I mean, no, they're not going to do that. Because what social worker is going to go, oh, this one's really bad. They need treatment. They're not about that. They're all about coddling the lifestyle. And then are you going to go, boy, you are insane. Off to the sanitarium for you. Nah, that's not how these outreach workers work. That's not how these social workers work. They feel bad. We heard they feel bad for these individuals. And a lot of these people have severe mental issues and they have severe addiction issues. You put those together and they're just really messed in the head. So your approach with these folks is one where you're going to have to drop the hammer on something, but there's nobody in charge to say, yeah. What cop is going to say, well, I'm arresting you. You've been homeless 3 times and you identified as homeless 3 times and you didn't go to shelter. I'm arresting you. Yeah, he writes up his ticket, spends half his day doing that, Mickey Mouse nonsense, knowing damn well the judge is going to go, charges are for being homeless? So sorry, what? We're doing what? That's not going to work. Bottom line is, there aren't a lot of great options when you've already built it and they came and they lived and now they're here. Now you got them. Now you've got thousands of people. You got 75,000 people in LA County alone. San Francisco has a huge homeless population as well. California itself has 1/3 of all the homeless in the United States. And that's why Gruesome Newsom understands that homelessness, on top of his response to the wildfires, on top of high gas prices, on top of high living costs, on top of extremely high housing costs, on top of Trump bringing in the feds to California's riots. I mean, you've seen it in San Francisco. We've seen it in LA. You've got all these layers that Gruesome Newsom's trying to get away from, and he's putting pressure on these cities to do something. Well, they were close to doing something here, but in the end, even if they would have passed their provision of, 3 times you got to go to jail, how long are you going to put them in jail? And these people are out of their minds. They don't belong in jail. I mean, if they've committed a crime and if, they're competent to stand trial, maybe. Okay, maybe. But so many of these people are they've burned their brains out on drugs. You need them to be in an institution. You need them to be in treatment. And no social worker, no advocate is going to say, yep, you off to treatment. We're going to have some tough love here today. Because these advocates are all part of the industrial homeless complex. And if they actually start to do something, they're going to get people better. They're going to get people off the streets. Where's their job go? Where does their job go? Goes away. Proposal by San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan is eye-opening. And this is the reason I'm reading this story to you today. Because it comes down from a liberal city, and this is NBC, one of the, worst news outlets arguably out there. Comes from a liberal city headed by a Democrat in the left-leaning San Francisco Bay Area. It's among the stricter anti-encampment deterrents proposed by elected officials since the Supreme Court in 2023 made it easier to ban homeless people from camping on public property. So you've had that decision get made. But, okay, so now you can go after people, even if you don't have shelter. You can go after people and arrest them for being homeless. But that doesn't solve the scenario. The scenario is you want these people out of the homeless industrial complex scenario, ever evolving, rotating grift mill, right? You want these people out. You want these people back on their feet, contributing to society. The amount of resources it would take to actually get these people there it's cost prohibitive. It's cost prohibitive. So what do you do? What do? You come up with Mickey Mouse programs like this, and you say, oh, we tried. We did something. It's also another sign of just how frustrated people have become with squalid tents lining sidewalks and riverbanks and erratic behavior of those using drugs or in psychotic distress in a state with an estimated 187,000 people in need of housing. How many of those just came to California because they knew that they could get all of the benefits without any responsibility and without any accountability? So many of our homeless here in Seattle are from out of state. They're from out of area. They're not from Seattle. You just take one look at them and you go, you're probably from California. You ain't from Seattle. Too tan. California is roughly a quarter of all homeless people in the country. Well, I keep reading a third. Quarter, third homeless population in the total United States. It's not good, any which way you look at it. Mahan says that most people do not accept offers of shelter. Well, at least the mayor's honest about that. They don't. And that's the big thing is if you offer them shelter and they don't go, what are you going to do? It's like telling a kid to do something and then threatening to put them in a timeout, and the kid doesn't do the timeout either, and the kid's twice as big as you are. What are you going to do? It's a bunch of empty threats. Junior, go to your room, sit in the corner. No. Oh, what do we do now? Well, let's put in a provision that a nanny can tell Junior that he needs to go to treatment. He needs to go to his corner for treatment. Let's do that. And that's what they did. But he wants to make clear to the small percentage of people who refuse that as the city builds more shelter and interim housing, they have a responsibility to move indoors. Okay, homeless people, whacked out of your mind on drugs. I need you to read the news and understand from the mayor that you have a responsibility to move indoors. I'm dead serious. Did you know that you have a responsibility to move indoors? You do? I'm not kidding. You do. They could care less. There's zero threat in that. The threat of arrest. But what are you going to do? You going to fine them? They don't have any money anyway. Whatever money they've got, they spend on drugs, cigarettes, junk food. It's standard stuff. I think we need a cultural change, a culture of accountability for everyone involved. What does that mean? Accountability means you arrest them, you throw them in jail, you do something, you move them off the streets. Are those fair solutions? No, they're not. Because I think these people, the bandwidth of help that these people need, we don't have it, and we're not willing to spend on it because everywhere's got a big budget deficit right now, and spending billions on a situation that you self-created isn't really in the books right now. I don't want to use the criminal justice system to make vulnerable people's lives harder. I want to use it as a last resort. Well, how many last resort people do you have that are homeless in California right now? A lot. That is the problem. You have gone through last resort after last resort after last resort, and now you've got all these people that this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. Who knew? Who knew that these big progressive liberal cities that allowed this as a lifestyle would be stuck with it? I mean, for the foreseeable future. I don't see anybody coming up with a solution here. You're going to have to spend a lot of money. You're going to have to get a lot of entities involved to get these people off the streets. Because where are you going to put them? Mental institutions? Drug treatment? Temporarily? Okay. And then what? And they're going to go right back to doing drugs. And then they're going to end up homeless. And then you're right back to square one. But hey, let's spend millions and billions of dollars on treatment and we'll see how it goes. California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat and former mayor of San Francisco, has repeatedly urged cities to ban encampments. You know what? That's him talking from the top down. So you ban encampments. All right. So you got an encampment ban. Now what? Now what are you going to do? Oh, well, I mean, we don't really have any provisions for that, but encampments are banned in whatever encampment ban town. Arrests for illegal lodging have soared in San Francisco, and its current mayor, Daniel Lurie, has reiterated that it is not appropriate for people to live outdoors. It's not appropriate. Yeah, that man shitting on your sidewalk out in front of your home. I agree. That's not appropriate. That's not appropriate behavior. We don't do that here in San Francisco, city that has a poop emoji map. Whatever, right? Advocates for homeless people don't really care about them. Pushing people with mental health needs or drug addiction into incarceration without any crime committed is both inhumane and ineffective. I don't believe they belong in jail. For lack of a better solution, toss them in jail. Well, it gets them off the street, but they need a bunch of care. I mean, they're whacked out of their mind. You don't just take a crazy person and say, we're just going to stick you here. Good luck with that. Maybe a little solitary confinement for you, with zero oversight of their mental condition. We don't do that to people. I don't believe that's correct. But you've created a position where you've told them, hey, it's okay to live outside. It's okay to live wherever you want, do all the drugs you want. We're not going to hassle you. And that's been the way it's been for years and years and years. Literally, right now in Portland, they've got people that have been living in a nature preserve in a delta area of the Willamette River. Some of them have been living there for 20 years. And they've been trying to clean out this encampment recently. And one of the workers cleaning it out, he maced, a homeless person. I got it in my eye. Because the homeless people were kind of clashing with the people clearing it out. As you can imagine, you're clearing out our home. You mean the piles of garbage? We're clearing that out. And so the city put a hold on clearing it out. We're going to need to reassess and rethink what we're doing here. And you're like, these are a whole bunch of homeless people living on the side of a river in a wetland area in a known park area. And you have a little confrontation and you close up shop and you go away because you need to reassess what you're doing. Nah, sweep them. If you sweep them, they're going to go somewhere else, but at least get them off the river. I mean, not that hard. This is a state that talks about, the environment and all this green stuff. Oregon is all over that. But, clearing out a homeless encampment with massive levels of toxicity, now we're not doing that. And you know why? No backbone. No political backbone. Somebody's going to have to take the stand here and just draw a line in the sand and say, here's what we're doing with our homeless population. And I don't know what that is. And I'm glad I don't have to be in that position because I'd probably make the decision and it would negatively impact a lot of people. And unfortunately, there's going to be collateral damage on this one because you've got so many thousand people. 187,000 homeless people in California? Think about that. Man, millions and billions of dollars being spent because you allowed this situation to happen. Lee and the other county leaders are opposed to the mayor's proposal. They say they need more housing, beds, and services and not punishment. They always say they need more housing. The more housing you create, the more will come. You need accountability is what you need. Some kind of accountability in there. Hey, you're sober, you get housing. If not, might have to put you in treatment. Pamela Campos, one of the city council members who voted against the proposal, said she supports the idea of enhanced outreach, but not the onus placed on homeless people. We are placing a huge amount of burden on an individual and framing it as a choice when the real culprit is a system. Blame the system. There you go. That pushes people experiencing poverty into homelessness. I think a lot of these people make choices. And why do I think that? Because I've talked to enough of them in the streets talked with Andrea Suarez of We Heart Seattle when she does her outreach. Watch what that looks like. And it comes down to a lot of people want to be homeless because then they can do all the drugs they want. And there's no accountability for their lifestyle, their actions, or the impact of, their actions on others, including the general public. Why is there human feces on my foot after walking down the sidewalk? On my shoe? Why is there human feces? Oh, homeless people. The responsibility to shelter proposal does not mandate an arrest after 3 rejected offers. Mahan said in consultation with the city's attorney office and police that it made more sense to give frontline outreach workers and police officers discretion to decide when to escalate or prioritize a situation. So you're going to throw it on the cops? You're going to throw it on the social workers? All right. Okay. City will set up a new 6-officer quality of life unit within the police department. You're going to put it on cops. I mean, okay. We don't want to overtie their hands and tell them this is the only way to do it, the mayor said. I think you do. I think you do need to come up with a very strict format and follow it. And everybody follows it. And it's going to be harsh on the homeless population. It's going to be hardcore because whatever it's going to take to get these people off the streets permanently, it is not going to be without much, much pain. You have a lot of screaming. You're going to have a lot of people, I don't want to leave. Well, of course not. You get to do all the drugs you want to do until we take your body out in a body bag. People who repeatedly violate the city's encampment code of conduct could be sent to a recovery center for detox or petition for court-mandated treatment for psychiatric or substance use disorder. Is that going to happen? Probably not. San Jose has nearly 1,400 shelter spots and hopes to add another 800 by the end of the year. Officials are aware that they do not have enough beds, and Mahan said that the people will not be punished if beds are unavailable or the only options are unsuitable. City Council member David Cohen voted in favor, but he hopes residents who have packed City Hall meetings clamoring for relief won't think that this will serve as a final solution for the city's ongoing struggles with homeless encampments. I'm hoping to see some incremental improvement. The reality is that the work we've doing will take years, he said. People need to be prepared for the fact that it will take years and that we don't have a signal that we've just done something magical. Because that's the bottom line here. There is no magic cure. These are people, human beings. You can't just, round them up like cattle and ship them off to an island, even though so many of you would love that. And I myself wouldn't mind not seeing the homeless population in major urban centers throughout the United States. I would be okay with that. But whatever it's going to take to get there, the cities that have this as a major problem don't have the leadership to make that go. And, the mayor here he's basically backpedaling. Okay, we're not going to arrest him, but you never really were. But we're going to have an additional code of conduct. We're going to have some more layering of outreach. You're not doing anything that's really going to make a difference. Because these folks they're not motivated to get sober. They're not motivated to work on their mental health because they've got it made. They're out on the streets doing whatever they want. Drugs are cheap. I had somebody comment not that long ago that, the homeless can't afford drugs. Fentanyl's under $1 a pop, or was just recently. $1 a pop, under $1 a pop. So a couple of bucks a day and you're good to go. So you tell me these folks can't scrounge that up? They do all day long. Steal from the community, women sell their bodies. I mean, whatever it takes. They get small stipends from cities, just hand out money, all the food that they can eat. Why would they want to go away from this? They don't. They don't. So that's why, third strike comes around. They could care less. Do what you got to do. But it ain't throwing them in jail, and it ain't throwing them in mental ward, and it certainly isn't treatment. So where's that leave us? Much of the same. Much ado about nothing. That's what leadership's doing. And so podcasts for days, weeks, months, years, probably into the decades. This homeless thing, it's going to take forever, if ever, these big blue liberal cities get a handle on it. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.